Hello and welcome to this week's Catechism review for the 5th grade class. Well, we're finally done with the Ten Commandments and are now focusing in on the Creed. There are 3 parts to the Creed. We call them the 3 articles, and we'll be dealing with each of them in parts. And so today we deal with the first part of the first article. The articles are broken up by who they address. The first article is about the Father, the Creator. The second article is about the Son, the Redeemer. And the third article is about the Holy Spirit, the Sanctifier, the one who makes us holy. And so we look at God the Father. I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. What does this mean? I believe that God has made me and all creatures, that He's given me my body and soul, eyes, ears, and all my members, my reason and all my senses, and still takes care of them. He also gives me clothing and shoes, food and drink, house, home, wife, children, land, animals, and all I have. He richly and daily provides me with all that I need to support this body and life. Breaking this down, I would say commas are going to be helpful. These are the chunks I would do. I believe that God has made me and all creatures. Break. Work on that with the echo method. That He's given me my body and soul, eyes, ears, and all my members. Break. My reason and all my senses, and still takes care of them. Break. In fact, now we're going into a new paragraph. He also gives me clothing, shoes, food, drink, house, home. Break. Wife, children, land, animals, and all I have. Break. He richly and daily provides me with all that I need to support this body and life. Break. The first part of this is talking about just creation in general, right? I believe that God has made me and all creatures. But what's so wonderful about this is often when we think about creation, we think about Genesis 1 and 2. We think about the creation as a past event. Whereas Luther is very specifically making the creation about now. It's not that just God made man or women, He made me and all creatures. And now the focus is really on what this creation means for me as a person. So that He has given me my body and soul. That is how the Bible describes the person in these 2 parts. Our body, including our mind, are one thing, and our soul, this spirit that is given to us by God, that gives us our reason as an animating force for us, all of these things, is the other part. We recognize this, right, when we die. When we die, our body goes to the ground and our soul goes to heaven. But this is an important thing to learn because it will carry us through much of the creed, because eventually we will confess that our bodies will be raised up and our soul rejoined to it to wholly be one person. And I think that's important to recognize. Our body is not a bad part of us that needs to go away. It's a gift of God as well. He's given us my body and soul. And then he goes to some of the specifics of the body. My eyes, ears, and all my members. And then he talks about some of the aspects of the soul, my reason and all my senses. And then we have this wonderful line, and still takes care of them. Creation isn't a thing that was, it's a thing that still is. Now we move to this next section, and as you work through this, I think it's pretty easy to see, but he gives you a list of things, but they're couplets, they're twos, right? And so he gives me clothing and shoes, food and drink, house and home, wife and children, and then finally land, animals, and all I have. And then finally this final sentence, and just notice the parallel between He richly and daily provides me with all that I need to support this body and life, right? Another couplets there, richly and daily, body and life. And I think as you use the echo method and if you bring to bear those couplets, this memorization section becomes easier because it's easier to remember 2 things that are related, right? Clothing, shoes, body, life, than it is to remember 2 things that you don't see as connected to each other. So work on it in that way. Well, let's do some vocabulary. Well, I believe in God the Father Almighty. What does that word Almighty mean? Well, it's kind of all in there. He is almighty. He has all the might. The fancy word we use for it in church is omnipotent. It's to say it's a different way of saying the same thing. Omni means all, and potent means powerful. So it's just another way of saying all powerful. But understand that what this means is that there is nothing that can keep God from doing what He will do. There's no power greater than Him. There's nothing that can stand against Him. He will accomplish what He wants to accomplish. And that's a wonderful comfort for us, because what He tells us is the thing He wants to accomplish is bringing us to Him in heaven. And that's Jesus' death on the cross. And it's important for us to understand that nothing can thwart that. All right, the maker. Well, maker simply means creator, right? And when we talk about creation, we recognize that He makes all things, and He made all things out of nothing. So, but of course, we do talk about what He made, heaven and earth. And there's another couplet too, and that's important. I think sometimes we hear that and we just kind of think, well, that's just generically everything, which it is. But heaven, properly understood, is the place where God is. It's a spirit realm, right? The angels are in heaven because they're spiritual beings. Our souls go to heaven because that's a spiritual place. The earth is where we are, and it's a physical place. It's a place of bodies. It's a place of flesh and bone. It's a place of stuff. The wonderful thing is that there is a time when heaven and earth dwell together. In Adam and Eve, in our worship services, when God comes to be with us with His forgiveness and grace. And of course, when Christ returns in the new heavens and the new earth. Those aren't two things that are separated from each other. The new heavens and the new earth are together. Where God is, so we shall be. And so understand it in that way. The heavens as the spiritual realm of God, and the earth as the material realm where we dwell. Creatures, living and created things, and we primarily think of animals there. Soul, I've talked about this a little bit, but this is the spiritual part of us, a gift of God that grants wisdom, emotion, reason, senses, and more. It's the thing that helps us make sense of the world. It gives us a sense of right and wrong, and it helps us to be creative and use this creation that God has given us. Members. Well, He gives a couple of them, eyes and ears, but members are simply the parts of the body. That's an old way, and if you read an old book, sometimes it'll talk about the members, right? Our fingers are members, our knees are members, and on and on. Reason is our ability to think. In fact, it's our ability to face a challenge and come up with a solution. I think it's wonderful. Adam himself had reason. God didn't want Adam to live in a challenge-free world. We are designed to confront challenges and overcome them. And our reason is a gift of God to help us do that. The wonderful thing is that our reason, when it is freed from sin, always looks to God for that help. And then provides. Provision is giving because of a need. It's not giving necessarily just because it's a good gift, although God certainly gives those things too. But we have things we need in this life. We have the basics. He goes over that. You need clothing and shoes to protect you both in your modesty and also from the elements. Food and drink, right? If you don't have those things long enough, you will die. House and home, you need shelter. Wife and children, we need relationships. We need other people in our lives. Land and animals, and all that I have. But these things are provisions. God is taking care of us. And the wonderful thing is that He gives to the sinner and the saint alike. He gives to the believer and the unbeliever alike. Because He does not hate any of us. He wants all of us to be with Him in heaven. Jesus died for all, and so He provides for all. All right. Well, I hope you find that helpful. Next week, we'll continue into with the first article, finishing it up. Again, my encouragement for you always is to put these things together. You can't just learn one idea in two parts and say, well, that's good enough. The whole thought needs to be put together. So we're going to put the whole meaning of the first article together for next week. Have a wonderful week.